My name is Rachel. I am 33 years old, and the night my mother-in-law set plates of steak and dessert in front of everyone but me, I realized silence had been my worst mistake. The knife screeched against porcelain as she carved a perfect slice of ribeye, juices spilling across the plate. She slid it in front of my husband with a smile. Another plate for his sister. Another for his brother. Another for his aunt. When the platter came to me, her hands froze. She pulled it back deliberately. "Sorry, dear," she said sweetly. "I only ordered for family." Laughter rippled faintly around the table, but my chest tightened. I stared at the empty plate in front of me, the scent of garlic butter and seared beef taunting my hunger. My aunt-in-law frowned. "But isn't she family too?" My mother-in-law tilted her head, lips curving. "Married? Not blood." My stomach twisted. My husband's jaw tightened, chewing without lifting his eyes. Between bites he muttered, "Don't do this." "Not here." "Not here." My throat burned. "If not here, then where?" If you're watching this, drop a comment, hit like and subscribe, because what I said at that table shattered her smile forever. I pushed my chair back slightly, scanning the faces around me. My husband's sister smirked like it was a show. His brother adjusted his tie, avoiding my eyes. Even his father sipped his wine, pretending not to notice. This wasn't just about food. It was about the years of digs, the constant reminders that I'd never be enough. I remembered my first holiday at this very table, how she had handed out carefully wrapped gifts to everyone, then slid me a grocery store gift card with a grin. "You like bargains, don't you?" she'd said, and everyone had laughed. My cheeks had burned then. Tonight my hands were steady. I inhaled slowly, looked her dead in the eye, and let my voice cut through the air. "You're right. This meal is for family. Which makes it strange you're sitting here, because no real mother humiliates her son's wife like this." The knife in her hand clattered against the plate. The table went silent. And in that silence I knew I had just crossed a line we could never step back from. I could feel my pulse in my ears as every eye at the table pinned on me. My mother-in-law leaned back in her chair, smug, cutting another piece of steak. "Don't take it so personally, Rachel. It's just tradition. We keep these dinners for family." Tradition. My jaw clenched. The only tradition she had was finding new ways to cut me out. My aunt-in-law set her fork down gently. "I don't see how excluding your son's wife is tradition." But my husband cleared his throat, cheeks flushed, eyes darting. "Can we not make a scene?" he muttered. "It's just one dinner." Just one dinner? The words landed heavy. This wasn't one dinner. It was every dinner. Every holiday. Every event where I was reduced to an outsider in my own marriage. I forced a smile, though my chest burned. "You're right. It is just one dinner. One more reminder of how I've never been considered part of this family." My father-in-law shifted uncomfortably. Amelia, my husband's sister, fiddled with her wine glass, pretending not to hear. Derek, his brother, stabbed at his potatoes like they were suddenly fascinating. My mother-in-law smirked, sensing my isolation. "Well, dear, some things you can't change. Blood is blood." My hands tightened in my lap. "No," I said evenly. "Some things you can change. Like whether you keep showing up where you're not wanted." Her smile faltered for the briefest second. I remembered that Christmas 2 years ago. How she handed out thoughtful gifts to everyone else and slid me a grocery store gift card with a wink. "You like bargains, don't you?" she'd said. The whole table had laughed. I'd swallowed it then. "Not tonight." My husband sighed, covering his face with his hand. "Rachel, please, you don't need to." I cut him off softly. "I do. Because the more I let it slide, the worse it gets. And tonight she didn't just insult me. She starved me in front of everyone." My mother-in-law's lips pressed into a thin line. "You're ungrateful. We invite you into our home and you make it about yourself." I met her gaze without blinking. "You made it about me the second you left my plate empty." The air was thick. I knew the next words could unravel everything, but I was past the point of retreat. The dining room was suffocatingly quiet. No one reached for their food. Even the faint scrape of utensils had gone still. My mother-in-law smoothed her napkin, voice icy. "You always twist things, Rachel. This table is for my family. You can't change that." I let out a humorless laugh. "No, but I can show what it really means. To you, family isn't love. It's leverage. And you've used it to make me feel like an outsider since day one." Amelia's hand froze midair, fork dangling. Derek coughed uncomfortably. My aunt-in-law's eyes softened toward me, like she'd been waiting years for someone to say it aloud. My husband sat frozen, knife and fork abandoned on his plate. "Rachel," he whispered, "this is out of proportion." I turned toward him, pulse racing. "Out of proportion? You just watched your mother humiliate me again and said nothing. How many times do I have to sit here invisible before it matters to you?" His lips parted, but no words came. I thought of that Easter when I baked a pie from scratch, crust golden, still warm. She'd taken one glance and shoved it aside. "We don't need that," she'd said. Hours later, it sat untouched while her store-bought desserts disappeared. I'd stood in the kitchen alone, swallowing back tears. I thought of last summer when Derek joked I was just the rebound wife, and she laughed so hard she cried. I'd smiled weakly then, but inside something fractured. And tonight all those fractures had sharpened into edges. My mother-in-law leaned forward, voice low. "You should lower your expectations. Respect isn't something you're entitled to." I leaned forward too steady. "No. Respect is something people earn. And right now you've earned none." The words hung in the air like smoke. No one moved. Amelia looked away. Derek's fork slipped from his hand. My father-in-law muttered, "Helen." A warning or maybe shame. My husband's face was pale, caught between me and his mother, his silence condemning us both. And I knew deep down that this wasn't just about a plate of food. It was about the future of my marriage. Because one of us would be left behind. My husband's fork clattered against the china, the sharp sound jolting everyone. His shoulders hunched like the weight of the whole table sat on them. "Mom," he said finally, his voice strained, "was this really necessary?" Her head whipped toward him, eyes narrowing. "Excuse me." He gestured at me with a helpless hand. "The plate. The comments. She's my wife." The room went still again. Amelia's lips parted in shock, Derek sank deeper into his chair, and my aunt-in-law raised her brows like she'd been waiting years to hear him say it. For a fleeting second I thought he'd finally stood with me. But then his voice broke that fragile hope. "Still, Rachel, you could have let it go. You didn't need to make a scene." The words slammed into me like a door shutting. Let it go. Just like he'd told me every other time. I stared at him, my throat tight. Let it go. I've let it go for 5 years. Every insult, every dig, every time she's cut me down and you told me to stay quiet. My chest heaved, but I pushed the words out anyway. Who was that silence protecting, David? Me? Or her? He didn't answer. His face was pale, ashamed, but still wordless. My mother-in-law leaned back with a triumphant smirk, sensing her victory. "See? Even your husband thinks you're being dramatic. You should listen to him." Something inside me hardened. I remembered the night after our wedding, when she pulled me aside before we left for our honeymoon. Her nails dug into my wrist as she hissed, "Don't forget, you'll never be blood." I'd smiled through photos, kissed my new husband and swallowed her venom. But not anymore. I rose slowly, pushing my chair back, the wood legs scraping against the floor. Everyone's eyes followed me. "No. Tonight I'm done swallowing." My mother-in-law scoffed. "And what does that mean, dear?" I steadied my voice, cold and unshaking. "It means I won't keep sitting at a table where I'm not wanted. And maybe it means this marriage doesn't have room for both me and you. Only one of us stays." Gasps rippled around the table. My husband's eyes widened, panic flickering. My mother-in-law's smile finally cracked. And I knew I'd just forced a choice neither of them expected to make tonight. The silence that followed was unbearable. Amelia's fork slipped from her hand and clinked against the plate. Derek muttered something under his breath, his face pale. My aunt-in-law leaned back, her eyes darting between me, my husband, and his mother like she was witnessing history unfold. My husband's jaw worked as though he wanted to say something but couldn't form the words. His eyes locked on me, pleading. "Rachel, don't do this. Not like this." I stood straighter. "Then tell me, David. Whose side are you on? Because I can't keep living in this half-life, married to you but married into her control." His face flushed. He looked toward his mother, who crossed her arms, chin tilted high. "Don't let her manipulate you, son. She's trying to tear us apart." Tear us apart? The laugh that escaped me was sharp, bitter. I didn't serve myself a plate of humiliation. I didn't make your son watch his wife starve while he kept chewing. I didn't whisper for years that I wasn't real family. That was all you. The table felt like it was shrinking, walls closing in. My father-in-law finally spoke, his voice low but firm. Helen, maybe you went too far this time. She snapped her head toward him. Don't you dare undermine me at my own table. But his eyes didn't waver. For the first time he looked ashamed. Amelia shifted uncomfortably, mumbling, "It did look bad, Mom." Derek didn't meet my eyes, but his silence said enough. For once, the cracks in her power were visible. I remembered that summer barbecue when she deliberately forgot to set a chair for me, and I ate my food standing while she beamed at her guests. David had whispered, "Don't make a scene, Rachel." I hadn't then. But tonight I was done being furniture in their lives. I leaned closer across the table. "If this marriage ends, Helen, it won't be because I demanded respect. It'll be because you demanded a throne." Her face went rigid, but her voice dripped poison. "And what if my son chooses me?" The room tilted in on itself. All eyes turned to David. His hands trembled in his lap and sweat glistened on his temple. This was it, the moment that would either save me or shatter everything. And I realized with a strange calm that I was ready for either outcome. David's hands gripped the edge of the table so tightly his knuckles turned white. His eyes darted between me and his mother, desperation etched into every line of his face. This isn't fair," he muttered. "You're forcing me to choose." I felt a sting, but my voice stayed steady. "No, David. She forced this the moment she served everyone but me. The moment she decided I'd never be part of your family." Helen leaned forward, eyes flashing. "Don't you see, son? She's trying to drive a wedge between us. I've cared for you since the day you were born. She's only been here a few years." Her words hung heavy, sharp as knives. But my aunt-in-law finally spoke, her voice breaking the suffocating quiet. "Helen, stop. We all saw what you did. You left Rachel with nothing. That wasn't tradition, it was cruelty." Helen's head snapped toward her sister-in-law. "How dare you?" "No," the older woman cut in firmer now. "Enough. You've humiliated her for years. Tonight was too far." The table shifted. Amelia fidgeted, her smirk gone. Derek cleared his throat, suddenly finding the pattern of the tablecloth fascinating. Even my father-in-law sighed deeply, rubbing his temple like a man too tired to defend her anymore. I remembered the nights after dinners like these, when I'd cry quietly in the car, mascara streaking my cheeks, while David drove in silence. He'd squeeze my hand, whispering, "Don't take it so seriously." And I had believed him, until tonight when I saw what his silence had really cost me. "David," I said softly, "you don't have to choose between your wife and your mother. But you do have to choose between standing up for me or standing in silence." His eyes welled with tears, the fork in front of him untouched. "I love you both," he whispered. Helen reached for his hand, her smile triumphant. "Then stay loyal to your blood." I leaned in, my words slicing through the room. "And lose your marriage in the process." The sound of my voice seemed to echo in the silence that followed. David closed his eyes, torn apart, his breathing heavy. And I knew whatever came out of his mouth next would change everything forever. David's lips trembled before he spoke. "Mom, you crossed a line tonight." The words stunned the room. Helen's smile faltered for the first time, her fingers slipping back from his hand. "What did you just say?" He swallowed hard, finally meeting her eyes. "I love you, but this, treating Rachel like she doesn't belong, it's wrong. I should have stopped it years ago." Amelia gasped softly. Derek sat up straighter, eyes flicking between them. My aunt-in-law's lips curved into the faintest, proudest smile. Helen's face flushed, fury replacing her shock. "Don't you dare take her side over mine. I carried you, raised you, sacrificed for you. And now you humiliate me at my own table?" David's voice cracked, but he didn't look away. "No, Mom. You humiliated yourself." The weight of those words hit harder than anything I could have said. For years I had begged him to see it, begged him to acknowledge the cruelty. And finally, under the glow of that chandelier, he did. Helen's hands shook as she pushed back her chair. "You're throwing me away for her?" I leaned forward, my voice calm but sharp. "No. You threw me away the moment you decided I wasn't worthy of a plate. He's just finally realizing it." I remembered sitting in the same dining room my first year of marriage. She'd served everyone slices of chocolate cake but forgotten mine, smiling as she cut herself an extra piece. David had brushed my knee under the table and whispered, "Don't make a scene." I'd gone home hungry that night, crying into a pillow so he wouldn't hear. Tonight those memories finally had their answer. Helen stood, fury radiating from her. "If you walk out with her, David, don't bother coming back." The ultimatum cracked the room open. Amelia gasped. Derek muttered, "Mom." My father-in-law closed his eyes, shoulders slumping. David's chest heaved, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then I guess I'm walking out." My breath caught. The table erupted. Amelia shouting, Helen swearing, chairs scraping. But all I saw was David rising to his feet, stepping toward me. For the first time he didn't hesitate. And in that chaos I realized something had shifted forever. The room spun into chaos the moment David stood. Amelia shot out of her chair, eyes wide. "You can't mean that, David. You're going to leave Mom?" Over her. Her words stung, but not the way she intended. They reminded me of every time I'd been treated as an outsider, someone temporary, disposable. David's voice was firmer now. "I'm not leaving Mom. I'm leaving this. Cruelty. The way you all let it happen. I should have stood up for Rachel long ago." Helen's chair screeched across the hardwood as she rose, trembling with fury. "You ungrateful boy. Everything you are, I built. And now you betray me." He met her glare head-on. "Respect isn't betrayal, Mom. And you've forgotten what respect looks like." The silence after his words was heavier than any shouting. My father-in-law finally leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice low. "Helen, I warned you. You've been pushing too far." She turned on him, her face twisting. "So now you're against me too?" He didn't answer. But his silence spoke volumes. I remembered our wedding reception. She had walked up to the microphone during speeches, smiling sweetly as she announced, "I thought David would marry someone with a little more polish, but we'll make do." Guests had laughed nervously. I'd laughed too, cheeks burning, hiding behind champagne bubbles. That humiliation had been brushed aside like a joke. Tonight the joke ended. David slipped his hand into mine. His palm was sweaty, trembling, but it was there. Thought. Present. For once he wasn't asking me to stay silent. "We're leaving," he said quietly. Helen's mouth opened but no sound came out. Her own son's rejection struck deeper than anything I could have said. We walked toward the door, the others frozen in shock. Amelia's whisper trailed after us. "She'll never forgive you." David's grip tightened. "Then so be it." The night air outside was cool, sharp with the scent of cut grass. My chest heaved, the adrenaline finally breaking. I turned to him, searching his face. "Are you sure? You've never stood against her like that." He nodded, tears brimming. "I should have done it years ago. I let her poison every holiday, every dinner, every part of our marriage. I thought keeping the peace was protecting us. But it was just protecting her power." My throat tightened, a lump of years of swallowed words finally breaking free. "Do you mean it, David? That you'll stand with me now?" His arms came around me, pulling me close. "I mean it." And for the first time I believed him. We didn't go back to that house again. Not for dinners. Not for holidays. Invitations came, dripping with guilt, accusations hidden between lines. "Family should forgive. You'll regret this when she's gone." But David and I stayed away. The first Christmas on our own, we cooked together in our tiny kitchen. Steaks sizzling in butter, chocolate cake cooling on the counter. When we sat down to eat, David looked at me across the candlelight and said softly, "Every plate at this table belongs to you." I cried that night, but not from humiliation. From healing. Have you ever faced betrayal? Share your story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. They tried to starve me of respect, but I fed myself power.